What's up, Phil?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I'm
Good to
doing
see you.
well, man. Good to see you too. It's been a minute. As
It
a, as a
has.
as a matter of fact, I'm gonna flash this up here. That might have been the last time that we hung out was sushi and
With Jeff, yeah,
yeah, with Jeff Scott Soda. That was a great spot, man.
it was.
Yeah. So you've been busy ever since, and I want to preface this interview with I first met you at the NAM show
Right.
back in God
2014.
14. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I had a little makeshift studio set where I was
right.
conducting interviews for Hired Gun, and somebody introduced me to you, and it's like, you got to get Phil Buckman. His story's insane.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I got you up in the room, and you were quite candid.
Oh yeah, I was
And
the wounds were fresh.
yeah, they were fresh, but it led for a good story.
Yeah.
And which brings me up to the next thing, and we won't spend a lot of time on it, but I feel like I need to address it and kind of set the record straight. But you were in Filter
Right.
and you told your story, your truth, which I've heard from some other people is the truth,
Yeah. Mine's
and
it's been verified over and over.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even Richard in the interview, his whole thing was, and if anybody has seen Hired Gun, Richard Patrick, I'm interviewing him and asking, he used to be a hired gun in 9 Inch Nails and didn't like the way he was being treated. And he left to become his own solo artist and Filter and
Right.
became very successful. And then in his own words, he's like, now I'm in the chair to hire hired gun musicians. And I tell them all, I'm not going to give you shit. You're going to sleep on the bus and it's just going to be grimy and dirty and everything else. And you kind
Yeah.
of echoed those
I know I
pieces.
know he said that, but that was not true.
Yeah.
That was
Oh, okay.
true. I was not told I was going to get nothing. I was told I was going to get a rate, and then when the check came in, they're like, "Oh, next time."
Oh,
Next
okay.
time. Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah. So he, fired a missile across the bow to me, and personally sent me an email saying, man, you made me look like shit. I'm like, I was quite surprised because to be honest with you, to me, he was telling, you're telling me a contradicting story, but to him, it was, I'm telling my guys what they're going to get or not going to get, and I was
Yeah.
like, well, I didn't, take anything out of context, and I just kind of echoed your words right behind his.
Right.
And then I finally saw him in person at an award show, and we had some words, nothing mean or anything. It was pretty pleasant actually, but you could tell he was frustrated and pissed off. And he's like, I wish you'd just let everybody see the whole interview in context. I'm like,
Right.
it pretty much was, and I
Yeah.
don't have that authority because I don't own the IP to Hired Gun. That's Jason Hook now.
Right.
If you want that, reach out to him. Maybe he'll do it, but I don't know. Did he reach out to you about that at all?
No, no, no. Yeah, it's sort of weird talking about it now. I mean, here we are 11 years later, and
Yeah.
I don't want to say, I mean, we've sort of mended fences, sort of. I mean, like, I don't have any animosity towards him or the situation at all. And he did call and apologize to me and wanted me to do a project with him, and I said no. Um, but I mean, which was fine. I mean, he actually it wasn't a rock project, and he ended up getting a bass player that was way better suited for this gig anyway.
Right.
But yeah, it was he went to insulting me online,
Oh man.
and which, I immediately posted something on the Filter fan page, like, hey, I that I said what I said because it was true, whatever. And he started insulting me, and I defended myself, and I got blocked. And then I saw, like, the fans were all like, we saw the movie. Like, you made yourself look bad.
Right.
And all his fans had my back on it. There was literally nobody that was on the other side. But
Yeah.
like I said, it is what it is. Water under the bridge. We
Yeah.
live, we learn, we move on. And they're still doing it, they're still playing.
Yeah.
um the Johnny, the guitar player, he left the band for a minute and he's back in the band. I mean, I think he left for the same reason I did. He just was kind of sick of being whatever, but he's back in the band. Elias Mallon's playing drums, who played drums. He filled in on a bunch of shows while I was in the band, and the bass player was in the camp when I was there. He was the drum tech,
Right.
and he's playing bass now.
The thing is, I'm a huge Filter fan, by the way.
Yeah,
I really am.
Great. Yeah,
the music's amazing. So I kind of, and when I wrote him the last email, it was a bonehead because he's got 2 first names, right?
Yeah.
Or, his name is 2 first names.
Right.
And I was like, hey, Patrick, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Within 3 seconds, he's like, my name's Richard, bro.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I didn't mean anything by that. I'm a huge fan, but
that happened periodically. And I think, I don't think you like that too much, but
yeah, no. But it made a great scene in the movie. People still talk about it. And then from that, man, it seems like you got a great gig at Carl's Jr. as the voice of Carl's Jr. and Hardy's.
I did. Yeah. That's been done for 9 years, almost 9 years. I literally lost the gig a day after my twin daughters turned 1.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was brutal. My kids are 9.5 now.
Yeah. How does one get a gig to be the voice of Carl's Jr.?
I auditioned for it. I'm a voice actor and an on-camera actor. And I mean, I had the Carl's Jr. gig before I joined Filter. There's no way in hell I could have gone on tour without a job that paid me. I mean, I have a house, I have, cars, insurance payments, property taxes, all the bills that come with it. And, unless you own, you're part owner of the band or you're touring with some super A-list talent, you're not making enough money to pay your bills. Unless you're like, not living sort of the way I am fortunate to live.
Right.
So I actually got the Carl's Jr. gig in 2000. And I was on a TV series at the time. So I was on a TV series and the voice of Carl's Jr. and life was good. And I was able to, nice picture. That's in my studio. I was able to, kind of, go on the road and have fun. Which is all I wanted to do. It's funny, when I left college, I left to be a musician, and all of a sudden I was a working actor, and that's what was paying my bills. I called acting my waiting tables job while I was trying to make it as a musician. And then when I finally decided, all right, I'm just not going to do music, the Filter audition popped up and I was like, all right, I guess I'll do it.
Yeah. And then you quickly found out that that's not going to pay the bills, especially when you were promised one thing. And
well, even the money I was promised wasn't enough to pay the bills. But they never, ever in the 3.5 years that I was in that band, never once paid me what they had originally told me I was going to make.
Unbelievable. Well, I've heard that story. Yeah.
But I was fortunate that I didn't need the money. I was doing it for the experience, for the life experience. And like I said, I had dreamed since I was a kid of being a rock star, whatever.
Right.
Not that I was a rock star, but I was pretending to be a rock star for a number of years and living the lifestyle of it. And it was fun and I had a great time. And, but if I wasn't the voice of Carl's and doing other jobs as well, in that time frame, I did like a bunch of commercials for World of Warcraft and there's another Castle. I did their whole syndication package. I did all the promos for their entire syndication package. I did all those commercials from the road.
Wow.
I was sort of at the forefront of the technology at the time. Now it's sort of industry standard. Nobody goes in anywhere to work or to audition. Everybody works from their home studios. I did 90, unless you're doing like an animation thing.
Right.
Or a dubbing job, but like commercials, I just did 3 commercials this morning from here.
No way.
Yeah. From in the room back there.
Right.
The room that picture you just posted. That's the other room in my studio.
Cool.
But yeah, everything is done remotely now. But at the time, I was kind of on the forefront of that technology. A buddy of mine, Bo Weaver, who's a huge legendary voiceover guy, clued me in on some programs that were just coming out and some technology that was just coming out. And because of that, I was able to work. I did commercials from my bunk on the tour bus, from
Wow.
hotel rooms, from backstage in venues.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's funny you say the tour bus because I did a documentary on the rock band Stained. I
Yeah.
worked with those guys and toured with
Right.
them for 7, 8 years. And Aaron Lewis can be a pain in my ass, right? We're like family, but he is a pain in my ass
Yeah.
and doesn't want to do anything I want to do as a director or a producer. I'm like, hey, man, we're going to do your interview today. Okay, let's do it on the bus. I'm like, problem. The audio is almost more important than the video,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And the bus uh, engine's on all the time.
The generator's on
The
constantly.
generator's so
Right.
the whole interview is just
Yeah.
in the background.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was so pissed,
Yeah.
but I still got it. But how did you avoid that?
So laptop battery, right?
Uh-huh.
So I can go unplugged. First thing I did every tour bus I ever got on was talk to the driver to learn how to turn on and off the generator.
Gotcha. Smart.
Yeah.
Smart. Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, everybody in whatever band I was in, whether it was Filter or Fuel or Steel Panther or whatever, they would be totally cool with being quiet for a little bit while I did my thing.
Oh, that's cool.
And because I would try to do it as fast as possible, because I don't want to inconvenience anybody. And if it was an inconvenience, the amount of money you're getting paid for doing these jobs justified renting a hotel room if need be.
Right.
So a lot of times I would just go rent a room, and then we'd have a day room, which, if you're in the middle of a run without a day off, especially in Filter and in Fuel, we never got hotel rooms unless we had days off.
Right.
But if I had to do a job, like, hey, we have a shower room tonight. So
Perfect.
so I'd literally run into a hotel, work for 10 minutes, half hour, whatever it was. And then the room is there, the band's to use, whatever.
Okay. So how did you get into acting? Was it your family? Like, it seemed like you started off kind of young, maybe in your teens, right?
I got my first agent when I was 15. I got my first job when I was 17. So I had a family member in the business, worked at ABC at the time, and he was a high up executive at ABC. Excuse me. And I had in high school, I guess in my sophomore year of high school, I took drama. I had to take an English elective, so I took drama, and I loved it. I never thought about being an actor before. I did a play when I was in 3rd grade. I think that was the last time I had done any kind of acting.
Right.
But I just loved it. And so I would say to my uncle, like, hey, get me a TV show. Like, I didn't know that's not how it works.
Right. Right.
Well, I guess now kind of in the Nepo world it does, but, and I got a lot of discouragement from my family. They're like,
Right.
no. My uncle actually said to me once, you want to be an actor, go get half your brain cut out and then come back and talk to me. Like, thanks.
Oh my God.
And so, for about a year or two, I just would pester him to get me something, get me a
Right.
job. Again, not knowing how it works. So one day, I guess my mom said to him, like, listen, can you just get him a meeting with somebody so they can be like, yeah, you're good, but stay in school and get a job. And like, literally they were trying to talk me out of it, like get the positive but discouraging information at the same time.
Right.
So he set me up with a meeting with the casting director. I went in and I read. They gave me a scene from Growing Pains to play Kirk Cameron's part, not to audition for it because the show was already on the air, but just to see what I can do. And I did it. And the casting director, Robin Nassif, liked me and sent me up for a TV series. She's like, I mean, nothing was handed to me, but it was like she sent me in for a TV show. I didn't get it. So she took another meeting with me. She said, all right, so we didn't get that job, but let's get you an agent so you can get to work. And at the time I was like 15, 16, I was dating a girl, as 15-year-olds will do, who was an actress, and she had an agent. And I said to Robin, like, well, what about Judy Savage. And she's like, oh my God, she's like one of the best kids agents out there. And so she set me up with a meeting with her, and Judy took me on as a client, and I was with her until I was 27.
Mm.
And yeah, so it kind of backfired in my family's face a little bit.
Told you
But
so.
yeah, well, what's funny is that my uncle now, he retired a long time ago. Not too long after that, he got out of the business completely and retired. And about a year ago, not even a year ago, I think it was Father's Day, we had my family, and they were all here. And he pulled me aside and he goes, I just want to apologize to you. I was like, why? He goes, because I never helped you when I actually had the chance to. He goes, and I feel horrible about that, and I wish I would have helped you. I was like, well, I mean, it was like that it meant a lot. It was really he was genuine, so it felt nice to hear. It felt I felt validated.
Right.
You know,
So you have beautiful twin daughters.
I do.
Have they ever approached you about getting into this industry?
So my girls work in voiceover.
Really?
Yeah.
Anything we know?
One of my daughters, Brooklyn, she is one of the voices on Pluto TV. I think her line is, "You're watching kids channels on Pluto TV." That's her. And my daughter, you know what? They honestly they work a fair amount, and I kind of lost track of some of the things that they've done, because I lose track of the jobs that I do, and I don't mean that in any sort of an ego way. It's like I walk in, I read the page, and then I never think about it again.
Right.
You know, unless it's something that I'm doing on a regular basis, like the Carl's Jr. My job today, I'm one of the voices of Cologuard. So I've been doing the Cologuard commercials for I'm in my third year, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so like that, obviously I know that's like been saving our lives. It's been a great gig.
Right.
So yeah, I just kind of like forget what it is we're doing, because a lot of times we don't even know what the product is. Like they're not reading lines that say the product, so I'm not hearing it to remember. But my daughter Charlie has done the voice of 3 toys now, which is really cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's Gund, which is a stuffed animal company. They had this elephant that would sing and do all these things and had these big floppy ears that would cover your eyes. And we had that for them since they were babies. And I think it's coming out this summer. There is a puppy. Does all the same thing, animatronic, and Charlie is going to be the voice of that puppy, which I think is such a cool full circle gig.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you must be immensely proud and like
I'm so proud of them, you know, like, and it's the perfect kind of work for them, because every now and then they'll say like, I want to be on TV. And I'm like, well, there's a lot of work involved. I'm like, all right, forget it. Voiceover, they go in and, it's short attention span. You do your gig and you get out.
right.
And they don't have to think about it, because they're, I'll have them in the studio and they'll be like, when can we go out on the trampoline? Like, hold on. They're regular kids, and they just want to be regular kids.
Right.
And I didn't get them into voiceover per se. I have a voiceover agent who knows I have kids and sent me auditions and like, hey, have your kids read this. Okay. So we did, and they started booking. So now my kids have agents. Like, we did not pursue it at all. They actually came to us, which was cool.
That is cool.
So it's it's cool because it's very low stress. They can walk away from it tomorrow and not care.
Yep.
And they have a savings account building.
Have they seen their work on television or on the internet yet?
Not yet. It's funny. Brooklyn was trying to watch Pluto TV last week to try to catch her voice, but it's, they're used to watching stuff like Netflix and Disney Channel, where, instant gratification of what you want to watch. And Pluto TV is set like a regular TV channel where if you turn it on, you're in the middle of a show. So you have to wait for the commercials, and they have no patience.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Exactly.
So when you told me you lost the Carl's Jr. voice, and if I'm not mistaken, you lost it to Matthew McConaughey.
So I lost it to Matthew McConaughey for a minute.
That, by the way, can I just say for the record, His voice did not work for that commercial at all. I did not buy it for 1 second.
I mean, I'm not gonna argue,
Yeah.
but, you know,
And it's not because I know you, it's just kinda like, that's just weird.
yeah, it was weird,
Yeah.
but, you know, I think a lot of times these, agencies wanna work with a celebrity, um, almost as a bucket list thing for themselves.
Right.
Just a theory, I don't know if it's true, but then say like, "Ah, I worked with Matthew McConaughey and I directed him."
Yeah.
And, you know, those guys are gonna get paid a whole lot more than I am, so they're like, "I'll take that big ass check. Why
Yeah.
not?"
How long did he last?
Oh, not long. Few
Yeah.
spots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I'm trying to think. I completely had forgotten that he had replaced me because I did lose the account at one point before I lost it for good. I lost it before a few years before, like 5 years before my kids were born, 6 years, and I lost it for almost a year. They went with another guy. They had switched ad agencies.
Mm.
And the thing that sucked about that is that there were 4 ad agencies that were competing for the business. All 4 hired me to do their pitch.
Really?
Yeah. And so the ad agency that won out, I remember the commercial, because I recorded it for them for their pitch. When I saw it on the air, I think I was at a bar and I was like, "Oh, there's the new commercial." Didn't hear it. And then I saw it again on TV and I was like, that's not me.
Hmm.
And then found out that, yeah, that they replaced me. But that's the way it goes in advertising. New team, they want their people on it. They don't want anything to do with the old people and they want to make their own mark. And they didn't last the full year on their contract before Carl's pulled it from them. They had a year contract and they got pulled at 10 months and they gave it back to the 2 producers who had moved to a different agency.
Right.
And then they brought me back in and I did another 5.5 years.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I met you, was when I
Yeah.
was in that second. And honestly, it couldn't have come at a better time for them to pull me because I was going through a divorce.
Yep.
So,
Right.
it helped my alimony payments for
Yeah, I'm
for a
sure,
few
man.
minutes. Yeah, it was funny. My ex actually accused me of purposely tanking my job so I wouldn't have to pay her. I'm like, get over yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm smart, but not that smart.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, so I had it for another 5.5 years, and then those 2 guys ended up quitting the business, and kind of the same sort of thing happened. Um, they went to a different agency, went with somebody else. They switched CEOs. They've switched CEOs, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times since I lost the gig.
Mhm.
Agencies probably the same amount of times. There was a point where they brought me back in a few years later and I did 2 commercials for them and they did really well because, you know, the one thing I don't pat myself on the back for this. This is a testament to Jordan Mendelson, who created the campaign from the beginning. Brand recognition. He knew brand recognition is key.
Right.
You hear me talk in that character voice, you know what the product is before I say my second word. I mean, to the point where I actually got hired by Jay Leno's Tonight Show to do a spoof of the commercial. They're like,
Oh,
they
wow.
called my agent like, "Yeah, we're looking for somebody who sounds like the Carl's Jr. guy." I'm like, "Well, we have the guy. Would you?" So first and only time I've ever done a voiceover job where I had a dressing room. It was crazy.
Oh, that's pretty
It
cool.
was cool.
Yeah, and Jay
Um,
Leno's cool. Did you get to meet him?
um, did I meet him that time? I don't think I met him that time. I've met him a few times.
Yeah.
Another ex-girlfriend of mine worked on the show, so I would go
Oh,
there all the time.
right.
Back in like when he premiered. So like we actually started dating before he was on the air.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, in between
Yeah.
the Carson and the Leno period. So I would go, he never remembered me. I mean, I met him probably 10, 15 times.
Right.
And it was always like, "Hey, young people, how you doing?"
Yeah, yeah. I remember he would And this is no knock to how I love the guy. He was so
He was super
nice.
sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's got the biggest head I've ever seen in my life.
That's true.
He would pop his head into the green room. It was when I was with Stained
Mhm.
and with Three Doors Down, because they both played the show when I was working with both those bands. But he was so. But I did get the opportunity to meet Scarlett Johansson. She was a guest on the show and one
Oh,
of the
right on.
bands. Yeah, she couldn't have been sweeter too, man.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. Speaking of voices, I'm gonna pop another picture up here if I can find it. Here we go. You had a role on Frasier, right?
That's from Wings.
Wings. Okay,
That's
I'm
from
sorry.
Wings. That was one of my favorite jobs ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me
I
about that. What was that experience like working on such an iconic show?
it was as great as you'd think. The only bummer about it was if you see the episode, I have this Joe, played by Tim Daly, comes to me, and you can see in the picture he's showing me a receipt
Uh
where I charged him for a rewind fee. This is at a video store,
huh.
right? 50-cent rewind fee. And I was like, dude, you came all the way down here. That's not too sad. And he's like, you know what? Just get the manager. I'm like, all right, I'll get the manager. Hey, Carter. Yeah, this guy wants to talk to the manager. Can you get the manager? Sure, Carter. And like, I'm the manager. I'm like talking to myself.
Right.
And it's funny, but it's really quick. But in the original script, it went on for a full page.
Oh wow.
And it was hilarious. Like during the rehearsals, like everybody was just falling apart, cracking up. And then they cut it down to like a small paragraph. I was like, why would you cut that? And they're like, because Joe, like in real life, Joe would have punched you in the face by that point.
Oh my
So he
God.
would never have stood there for that long. So they had to cut it down to just give it like a little bit of authenticity. But it was a great experience working on that show. The cast was insanely kind and fun. Can you curse on this?
Yes.
All right. So day one, Thomas Hayden Church was on that show.
Yeah.
So day one, I'm leaving the stage and I'm walking to my car, and it's at Paramount, and I'm all the way across that huge parking lot where the big sky mural is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a nobody, so I'm all the way at the far end of it. And all of a sudden I hear, "Hey, Phil, come here. I was like, okay, Tom. And I could walk all the way back. I'm like, what's up, man? He goes, if you switch the letters on your name, you'd be Buck Philman, or no, Bill Fuckman. That's what he is. Bill Fuckman. I'm like, thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's all. And then I walk.
Like you made me sweat all the way over here.
Yeah,
For that.
yeah.
You did have a role on Frasier.
Yeah, I did. They wrote a character for me because of Wings. It's the same producers.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to mention that because I'm friends with Spencer Grammer, who's also a voice actor, as well as an actress and singer-songwriter. And it seems like nowadays a lot of actors, musicians are kind of delving to other things just for supplemental income, especially with the way the industry is kind of turning right now. Is that how you're seeing things as well in the industry? Or
Oh, definitely. I mean, we've got to diversify. The industry has changed so much. I was talking to my voiceover agent about this a few months ago. At least 85% of the work has gone non-union.
Yep.
And everybody and their mother has a laptop and an interface and a mic. And like I said earlier, that's the technology that everybody's using now. You don't need to go in the studio. You don't need to be in the room. So you don't need to be in LA or New York anymore, or even, Chicago or Dallas for that measure. You can be anywhere.
Right.
And so there's so many more people trying to do it. So work is way more few and far between. It used to be, even when I had Carl's, I was doing 3 to 4 new business jobs a week.
Wow.
I would do 2 to 3 sessions a day sometimes, 3 or 4 days a week. Very busy. I mean, there are guys that they don't do this anymore, but there were a couple of guys, Don LaFontaine, who's legendary promo guy, Jim Cummings, who's the voice of Winnie the Pooh and Pete in the Disney movies and a bunch of other things. These guys literally had limos. They owned them because they were in limos all day long, driving from studio to studio, because they literally didn't have time to park their cars.
Oh my God.
And those guys, their sessions would be like 15 minutes, where ours, a normal session's an hour and a half. Their sessions would be 15 minutes. Car would pull up, they'd jump out, run in, do their stuff, get back in the car, go to another studio, and just all day long,
Just nailing their lines.
Yeah. And they had like, I don't know how they had this, but there were like fax machines in their cars that would fax in their scripts. So they had them ahead of time. And yeah, but now it's like everybody's struggling. If you can't just do this, you have to diversify. So I mean, I still act, I still work on camera. I had a part in an episode of The Pitt that was just on.
Yeah. Hey, whoa. Hang
we
on.
going to that?
Yeah, we're going to go to that.
We'll get to that. But
here's the funny part. I was watching that show. Right. I got hooked early on. I was like, oh my God, this show's great. The pacing.
I've heard it's great.
Still
haven't watched it yet.
You haven't? Oh, man.
I have 9-year-olds. We don't watch TV.
Yeah.
It's on our list. It's definitely on our list of shows we want to get to. Yeah.
There he is.
Look at that. I hadn't cut my hair in a long time.
Yeah. So I was watching it, and as soon as that scene, I was like, that's Phil Buckman. Holy shit. So I sent you a text. I'm like, did I just see you on The Pitt? And you're like, if you were watching it, that was me.
If you didn't blink, yes, you saw me on The Pitt.
Yeah. And then my son, a couple of days ago, and he met you somewhere. I don't know where. Maybe he was at the NAMM show with me, but he goes, is that Phil Buckman on The Pitt? I'm like, it sure is. He goes, man, what a great show. He really enjoyed the show as well. So that was pretty neat, man. Have you been recognized just from that one little scene yet?
No, I mean, no. I mean, it's tough to say. Probably, I mean, but I mean, people I know have recognized me, but I have 2 small kids that are in school. So those are kind of the only people that I see.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing new people. So people that I know who have seen it have said, oh, I see. So it feels like I'm recognized all over the place, but no, people don't.
Was that shot here in LA, or was it actually in?
Yep. The interior stuff was shot at Warner Brothers.
Okay. So that's a set.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like a full on.
It's an insane set. It's huge. First of all, it's built like a hospital. They have it lit in such a way you don't see studio lights anywhere.
No.
They purposely lit it so that they don't need time to set for lights. They don't even have chairs for the cast on the stage because there's no downtime. It's like, let's block it, let's shoot it. Next, let's block it, let's shoot it. There's no let's block it. All right, let's get lighting in. There's none of that.
Man, let me tell you something. You know how long that can take, right? Yeah. Like I just shot a show in Nashville, a true crime show, and 3 hours minimum just to light one scene.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Like, you got gaffers and grips and sound department, everything else running around like crazy. Yeah. So I can't imagine what was the pacing like when you were shooting that?
It was frantic, and they shot pretty much in order,
Really?
Yeah. They shot, I mean, I don't know the other stories that are going on in the day, but like they shot our stuff and then they moved to a different setup and then they shot back, they came back to us. Like, so they kind of shot in an almost a chronological order. But yeah, like everything was handheld cameras.
Yeah. I was going to ask where there's was it a steady cam running around, or was it a couple of handhelds?
Yeah, it was a guy with a steady cam, with like the Halo type, Lovi type of thing. And then hold on, I'll show you something. They would have a guy. They would have a guy next to the camera with a stick, and on the stick would be. Let's see if I can get this thing to work. It's not working, but that's okay. You get the idea. It was like a light, an LED like this.
Yep.
Just on, and this was the only kind of light just to get like close focus on the actors.
Right.
They follow you, and it's far enough away so that it's not giving harsh lighting. But yeah, that's kind of it because everything else was so properly lit.
Right.
And the director was phenomenal. I didn't have any scenes with Noah Wiley, but I met him because he, like I said, they shoot it sort of in a chronological order, and he had a thing with one of the nurses where they're walking by in their scene, and then we pick up and continue, and it was shot as one
continuous take,
one continuous thing. So I mean, I was standing off waiting to come on with Noah. He couldn't have been nicer.
Yeah.
He was such a genuinely sweet guy.
Oh, that's cool to hear.
Yeah, it was.
That's really cool to hear.
Yeah, I mean, and me being a huge fan of these medical drama shows, ER was my favorite show when it was on.
Right. Right.
And I was on a medical show for 2 years, a show called City of Angels, and that's it right
There
there.
you are.
You're on it. Yeah, there's a couple of like unknown actors in there, like Gabrielle Union and Viola Davis and Blair Underwood, Michael Warren. That was one of the coolest things.
Yeah.
Michael, who's on the top there.
Yep.
He, he was Hill Street Blues, which I was so
Huge.
like, yeah. And he was also a legendary college basketball player.
Oh, right? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he played with Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at UCLA.
Wow.
But still super tied into the UCLA community. At the time, my sister was getting ready to go to college, and Michael wrote a referral letter for my sister to UCLA, and that's where she went.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I ran into him not long ago at a car wash of all places in the Valley. And it was like picking up where we left off, just big hugs and just super cool. And Viola, man, I knew then, I'll just say, I'm taking credit for her career. I knew then. I mean, obviously they knew what they had with her, but she didn't have much to do on the show. Because apparently the story is she read for Vivica Fox's role originally, wasn't right for it, but they liked her. So they created this character, a nurse, for her just to have her on the show. And, the show's mapped out for the season. So they didn't really have too much to do for her. So like her character would just kind of come in and be like, oh, they're ready for you in surgery, Dr. Turner. And in between season 1 and season 2, she was doing the vagina monologues on Broadway in New York.
Right.
And I went to see it. I had no idea how talented she was. And I mean, she literally had me laughing and crying like within a second of each other. To the point where when I left in the car, I called and left a message for Stephen Bochco, who was the producer of the show. And I left him a message. I'm like, I'm sure you know, but do you know what we have here? Like, do you have any idea how amazing this woman is? And so, yeah, so she deserves everything that she's got now.
Right.
She's so talented. And her husband, and her partner in her business, Julius, they met on City of Angels. They met on the show.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he was a guest star on it.
Okay. All right.
And the very first time they appeared in public, I think the very first time they appeared in public as a couple was at a party at my house.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Look at you, man.
I love Viola.
Tastemaker, matchmaker, the whole deal.
That's me. Full package.
Oh my God. Are there any roles you turned down that you wish you wouldn't have, looking back now? Like, oh my God, that could have been me.
No, I've never been in a position to turn down a role.
No. Oh, okay.
No.
Well, that leads to my next one. Like, what do you look for in a script before you say yes, or do you, or you just take it?
I'm a journeyman actor. I'm not a star by any means, so it's sort of kind of take what we get.
Right.
I've been really fortunate that I've gotten some great stuff. I've also done some really bad stuff, knowing it's bad while I'm doing it. But at the end of the day, paycheck's a paycheck, and I was not number one on a call sheet. I was not a star making star money. I was making journeyman actor money.
Right.
Enough to make a living, and I'm incredibly appreciative of it. But at the same time, yeah, I was never really in a position to be like, I don't want to. Let me rephrase. I never turned down something that was offered to me. I've turned down auditions.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, there have been some things that have come across. An agent's job is to throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. And sometimes they'll throw something to the wall, and you're like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't feel like I can do that, or that I want to. I'd be afraid if I got it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not too often, but every now and then that kind of thing happens where I'm like, okay, I could use the money, but is this going to help or hurt my career?
Mm,
And so you sort of, you pick and choose.
right. Have there been any
Um,
roles that you've taken that were really challenging that like pushed you super hard?
um, that pushed me super hard. When I did Boston Public in their last season, I was brought in for 2 episodes, and then they ended up liking my character and brought me in for a third, and I found out that I was on the board for the rest of the season, but the show got canceled.
Oh,
Like,
terrible.
but that was the deepest, most intricate character I'd ever had. Um, there was so much to do in that
Right.
character. It was I played an art teacher who was brought in as sort of like a love interest for Jerry Ryan's character. And but I was kind of like, I don't want to say I had mental issues, but I was like an angry, bitter, uh kind of crazy artist,
Right.
who was not happy with his lot in life that he's now having to teach art at a high school,
Mm,
and really did all he could to like buck the system and go against the grain of, I constantly was being reprimanded by the principal
right.
for like, this is on my demo reel, my drama demo reel. You could actually see it. I think it's up on my YouTube page. It starts where the episode starts. They're panning across the classroom, and my feet drop onto a desk. And then we're talking. You look up, and I do an art installation where I fastened all the desks to the ceiling.
Okay.
And then just one of the vice principal like tears me a new one basically for doing that. And um, it was just a really cool character. There's a scene where Jerry Ryan walks up to me. I'm in my truck, and I'm literally just sitting there smoking a cigarette and muttering to myself, just talking to myself. And there was nothing in the script. They said, Henry's just in his car talking to himself. So I had to like make up a whole thing about.
Dialogue to yourself.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I was like, "What am I doing here? Like, I'm better than this. I don't need to be doing this shit."
Yeah.
All this fun. It was fun. It was
Oh, that's
fun.
cool. Have you ever gone through the drive-through at Carl's Jr. and ordered a burger with your voiceover
I
character?
have I have not.
You have oh man,
I
that
have
would just be
not.
so epic. Have you
Yeah.
been recognized because of your voice just in
Um,
conversation?
Sort of. Let me go back to the
Yeah.
I take it back. I did go through once. My friends wanted me to do it. Like they wanted to see if they recognized. So I ordered like, can I have a $6 burger or whatever I said? And they're like, yes, drive through, pay the first one. Like they couldn't care less. They had no idea.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that did happen. As far as being recognized, no, it's not my normal voice.
Yeah.
Um,
How
but
did you find that voice for that commercial? Were you directed into that, or did you like
they wanted
throw
some
some scenarios or
they wanted somebody who was very irreverent and monotone and kind of low key, and I just kind of came up with that, you know, like super flat. And but I when people would say, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" I'm like, "I'm a voiceover artist." Like anything I would know, close your eyes. And then I'd like, without us, some guys would starve. I'm like, what? No way. Yeah, I
yeah,
used
you
I used to
you
get
did that for the Hired Gun movie, man. That just God, what a great moment, you
no,
know.
thanks.
Yeah, everybody cracked up at that. It was just like that is fucking all who would have known, man?
It's funny because, it became such a huge part of pop culture for that time frame,
Yeah.
because of the direction of the commercials. Again, not anything I did. I just happened to be part of something that was super cool. And yeah, unless you're too young, I'm still known, like, or I'm not known, like that voice is still known. If you say Carl's Jr. voice, you're not thinking about the dude that's yelling at you now.
Yeah.
You're thinking my voice, which
Right.
is which is cool. I wish the Carl's people would be like, we need to go back. Maybe take the
Maybe
business back up and get back there.
what's funny, man? I bring up Ray Parker Jr. all the time on this thing, but
Mhm.
he's the guy that wrote and performed Ghostbusters,
Sure.
and they've tried to replace him a couple of times,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't work.
No.
And I remember when I interviewed Ivan Reitman for his movie that I
Mhm.
did. And the next thing I know, we're getting a meeting with him, and we had to sign an NDA at the time. It wasn't known that they were doing Afterlife, right? The one that his son directed.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they wanted to bring us in there is so that they could entice us with footage, right? They're like, we know you're doing this documentary, and if you need to use any Ghostbuster IP, we will work with you. But Ray, because a lot of people don't know, man, especially if you're in the music industry, there's two sides to a song. There's the publishing part and the
Right.
master.
Right.
Well, Ray somehow, through his attorney at the time, because nobody gave a shit about, what are they called, theme songs or whatnot in movies. They weren't a big thing, but he managed to secure the rights to both sides of the song.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, it's because other artists had turned down the opportunity to write
Yeah,
the song, and he was the one who said,
I'll do it.
"I'll do it, but I
Yeah,
get this." And
yeah.
they're like, "Fine, whatever. So please write us a song."
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they were coming to us to swap favors. We'll give you whatever you need for your movie if Ray will throw us a bone and not like back up the Brink truck,
yeah, yeah.
so we can use the song in our movie because we need that song. And I'll say to this day, man, I think that song might be bigger than the movie.
Well, yeah,
The movie's huge, but
yeah.
that song has gone from generation. And you can ask your daughters.
Oh, yeah, they know the song.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
They
Right,
probably
well,
don't know
then
the movie, but they know the
they've
song.
never seen the movie.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, but I mean, they had the ride, the Ghostbusters ride for
Yeah.
years. I remember, through you, I met Ray,
Yeah.
and he had a podcast for a little while,
Oh, that's
and
right. You were on the
I
podcast.
was on it, yeah, and he lives, or he moved out of California, didn't he?
He still has a house in
He
Calabasas.
still has the same house?
Yeah.
Alright, so his house is, I mean, I pass it to go to the market, I
Yeah.
pass where he lives. Um, and so I went over there a few times, and, first of all,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't get a nicer guy, and
Dude,
more down to earth, you know?
so cool.
Yeah.
We still talk once a week. Yeah.
He's such a, please give him my best,
I
'cause
will. Yeah.
I loved, running into him at, like, the Starbucks,
Yeah. The Commons all
Yeah,
the time.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just such a good dude, and he told me, like, he told me the story about the ride and the money on the ride, and he's like, "I get paid, like, 3 cents or something every time it runs."
Yep.
I'm like, "Okay, that's cool." He goes, "So I would get a check every year for, like, $300,000-$400,000."
Oh, yeah.
Like, "What?"
Oh, yeah. And
And
dude,
that's just the ride.
let's not forget about the music licensing worldwide because that
Right.
song was number 1 in 52 countries around the
No,
world. So he's like, dude,
100%. This is like
yeah,
$300,000-$400,000 for doing nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which that cracked me up. And, he has got a beautiful house and a beautiful
Oh, yeah.
studio
Yeah.
and all that, and he's like, "Yep, none of this was Ghostbuster money.
None of it.
This is
Yeah.
all from all my songs I've written before, like, when I was 22."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
dude is so prolific.
He really is, man. I
Yeah.
hope everybody, if anybody wants to watch the movie, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's streaming on just every platform you can find. You have
Right
to
on.
pay for it still on VOD. We had
Mhm.
to deal with Sony Pictures, but it's so good. You'll learn so much about this guy. And like you said, he's such a prolific songwriter and
Yeah.
producer and just songs that'll blow your socks off. You never
Ridiculously
knew.
talented.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So back to your acting. What do you like better, acting or playing on stage?
Um,
Which is more rewarding?
I kinda quit playing,
Oh,
for
did
now
you?
at least. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I still play. I play in a band, Petty Cash. We do all the Tom Petty, Johnny Cash covers, and it's guys from, like, Todd Morris, who's the bass player in The Offspring, is our singer. Kemba Walters, who's the bass player, and Chevelle is one of our guitar players. Jason Womack, who's the bass player, and Juliet and the Licks
Yeah.
is the other guitar player and singer, and then me. So we have 3 or 4 bass players across the front.
Who's the
Um,
guy from Chevelle? What's his name?
Kemba Walters.
Has he
Um,
been in the band for a long, long
no,
time?
he's
Like,
he's been in the band for a couple of years, like 2 years.
okay, yeah, because I've toured with. I wasn't working for Chevelle, but they were supporting one of the bands I was working with. I remember
Mhm.
those guys are super nice, down to earth dudes from
Yeah,
Chicago or something. Yeah,
Pete and Sam are the other
Pete
2
and
guys,
Sam.
and
Yeah.
they're brothers.
Yep.
And, when I toured with Chevelle, when I was at Filter, Dean was their bass player, and Dean was their brother-in-law. And
Oh,
before
interesting.
that was their actual other blood related brother. So I mean, they've always been a family band. And Kemble is, I'm not sure exactly how the connection happened, but I know like Kemble's wife Jen, I think, knew them from Chicago.
Mm,
And then Kemble also has a band called Ages that went out on tour with Chevelle. And Kemble's just a super easy hang and a good dude and ridiculously talented. He's one of the best guitar players I've ever played with.
right.
He makes the craziest when he's solo. He makes the craziest choices that work really well, but you're just so outside the box and just so musical. And yeah, I got into that whole scene through Kemble. He and I played in a band together called Volume.
Okay.
And yeah, it's just he's a crazy talented dude, and so they asked him to fill in on bass for a little while, and he's now been in the band, and they have a new record out, and Kemble like co-produced it, I believe, and worked on some of the songs with them, and
Mm.
I think he actually helped Pete build his studio in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then I saw that you've transitioned a little bit into photography, and I remember you bought one of the Sony A7s, and I had
Yeah.
purchased one a while back too, and they're great cameras.
Mhm.
What brought that on? Was it just a hobby you wanted to jump into, or have you done this before?
Kind of, sort of. Excuse me. I had always dabbled in photography. I was never good. I never took classes. I would read books on it and it never clicked, never made sense.
Mm,
And I would buy like a decent camera every 10 years
right.
and then get rid of it because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And then I discovered YouTube and discovered some amazing teachers on YouTube: Peter McKinnon, Jason Vong, Potato Jet, Francisco, Joel Hernandez, Miguel Quiles. Like these guys, I studied their videos, studied, and I learned how to shoot.
Right.
And
You,
because
you
having
shared, yeah, I was going to say you shared some product photos with me the other day that were spectacular,
oh,
man.
thank you, thank
Yeah,
you,
really
um,
good.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to share. I could if I can put pictures up from my end, I would do that. I don't know if I have that. Um,
I don't think so, but I'll share some on. I'll just pop some up after we get off and
okay,
edit it into this so people can see your work. And
cool.
are you for hire?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So
So
how
I've
do
done
people find you? Like if they wanted to hire you as a photographer for
Phil at philbuckmanphoto.com.
okay,
But this
easy.
this is my photography studio here, and that's
Yeah,
I'm filming this on my A7 IV. That's my A7R5 there set because
mhm.
I have a friend staying with us who's also a ridiculously good headshot photographer out of Atlanta. He's here just for a couple of days.
Oh, wow.
He's
What's his
actually
name?
Sean Patrick.
Sean
Um,
Patrick.
yeah.
Okay. I'm from
Um,
I lived in Atlanta for many, many years.
all right. He hasn't been there that long. He
Yeah.
was from here.
Oh,
They
okay.
moved to Florida for a little while. Then they ended up in Atlanta. His business is doing really well there, but he and his wife are moving back to LA in a couple of months,
Right.
which
Man, look,
I'm
I
super
was gonna
excited about because he and I are gonna like get together and work. I like strobes. I like lighting.
yeah.
He's a very natural light photographer. He's great at it. He's getting into strobe stuff, but we're gonna like just work together on some projects just to learn from each other.
No, that's cool.
His stuff is so good. He's got such a good eye.
Yeah, it's funny, when I first started in photography, I had no desire to become a professional photographer, which I was for many, many years before getting into filmmaking. But my ex-father-in-law gave me a Minolta X700 years ago because
Uh-huh.
I would sneak my camera into concerts just for joy, right?
Mhm.
And this was at a time where if they found your camera, they would either bust it or take the film out and destroy
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Remember those days?
yeah.
Now you can take your phone or whatever you want. Nobody gives a shit. But back then they were strict about it.
I think you can't have like a detachable lens
Yeah,
or like
exactly.
that, which who
Well,
cares? The
yeah,
iPhones are so good now anyway.
they are, which is a shame. And I'll tell a story about that too. But
Yeah.
I would shove my camera into my jack and the lens and down my pants and then
Yeah.
assemble it and get as close to the stage so I could get these shots. What I wish I had was the fundamentals because
Yeah.
it was all trial and error. I was shooting film, which
Yeah.
is not cheap,
That was the frustrating part when I did it in the past is
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing, and then I get my pictures back. I'm like, "These suck," and I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. They're either blurry as shit or they're
Yeah.
dark.
Yeah,
or overexposed or
and I had no idea why. I
yeah,
had
me
no clue.
neither, you know,
Yeah.
and I didn't have YouTube at the time to teach
Right.
me, so it was all trial and error until I figured out, okay, the faster the shutter speed, the less blurry it's gonna be.
Right.
You know, if I open up the aperture, it's gonna let more light in.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know anything about ISO. I was shooting with like 200 ISO in a concert, and that's just
Right.
not enough to get that
Right.
light because light is so important to
Yeah.
film. Well,
Yeah.
now with digital, it doesn't matter, you know.
Right.
And I was at Madison Square Garden a few weeks ago shooting Disturbed. My son and I went as guests, and we shot the whole show.
Mhm.
And I saw people in there from with a photo pass with an iPhone taking pictures.
Yeah.
And you got to get the gig however you can get the gig, but it kind of pissed me off, man, because
No, I get it.
I put so many years into learning my craft,
Yeah.
right, and the art of photography. And I don't want to say digital is lazy; it's convenient, you know,
Yeah.
especially in today's world, you have to have it. But I bought a Nikon F5 film camera
Mhm.
when I moved here to Oklahoma because the joy of shooting film. I found all these old negatives in my archives. I'm like, this looks nothing like digital.
Yeah.
You know, just looks so much cooler and warmer and like
Yeah.
more iconic. So I bought the camera and I know the guys in Creed really well, and they came through town and then they had me out to shoot the show. 3 pictures probably came out.
Yeah.
The camera is so advanced for a film camera that I was just like, oh shit, man. You
Yeah.
know, so I figured it out, looked on YouTube, learned a little bit, and went and shot them again. They came to another town in Oklahoma with Seven Dust.
Mhm.
So I went and shot both those guys, and the pictures came out great. And I brought it to New York. You know, I thought about it. It's a lot of shit to carry. You
Right.
know, it's a heavy camera, lenses, the whole deal, and you're trudging through Times Square to get to, you know, Madison Square Garden. But they came out great, you know, and they're going to be here again a week from today. So I'm going to shoot them
Creed or
Disturbed.
Disturbed. Oh,
Yeah,
cool. Say hi
yeah,
to John.
with Daughtry, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
say hi to Marty.
that's
You know,
right. He plays bass
yeah,
with Chris Daughtry now, another hired gun.
I know.
Yeah.
He's the reason I met my wife.
Is he really?
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
I was
Yeah, I'll
meeting up
definitely
with
sign it to him.
I was meeting up with Marty, to go to the Whiskey to see his nephew play, who's also a bass player.
Oh,
And at the time, Marty was dating this girl who brought her friend, and that's Lauren. We ended up
wow.
friends. Yeah, we ended up friends, and she was a musician. I hooked her up with my studio and Kemble, to produce some demo stuff for her. And a few months later, we started dating. And now,
That's
15
awesome.
years later, here we are, 2 kids.
God. Any
Yeah.
more kids on the horizon?
Hell no.
I know, man. I
Hell
had
no.
one, and that was in twins too, man. That's got to
Yeah.
be like,
And I was later in life. I mean, I
yeah.
was almost 46 when my kids were born, and,
Oof. Yeah.
I was in we're I told my wife, I'm like, "I want 1, maybe 2." She's like, "No, we're gonna have 2." I'm like, "Well, then you better pray for twins." She's like, "I will," and we got them.
Oh my
And
God.
then she wanted twin girls, and I wanted 1 boy. I mean,
Uh, see,
that did change, like, while we were, like, going through the process even before
right.
we were pregnant. I was like, "Maybe I do want a girl."
Yeah.
And I couldn't be happier. We got exactly what we wanted. But in the hospital, I was joking around. I was like in the elevator, and I was talking to a doctor. I was getting on the elevator from the maternity floor. Obviously, I'm a new dad and got the tags and stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what button do I press to get a vasectomy? Yeah. Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. I just had my one son, and I couldn't be more proud of him.
Yeah.
I fucking love it. So what came to you first, music or television or film or acting?
Well, I started playing music. I got a drum set when I was 3. I
Mm,
got a guitar when I was 9. Just hacked around. I'm self-taught. I never took lessons and just had fun. And then I started acting in high school.
oh,
So
okay.
so the music came first. I think I said earlier, I quit college after 3 years to join a band.
Oh God.
I mean, 3 years. I
Yeah.
went to San Diego State back in the late 80s,
Yeah.
where 3 years is like a fraction of the time it takes to get through that
Mm,
school.
right.
The
So
average, I
what
think, was like 5.5 years.
Yeah. So what instrument do you wish you had mastered?
Piano.
Me too, man.
Yeah. I think if you can master piano, you can play anything.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful sounding instrument,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
have a friend who's got a son who became a phenom
Yeah.
on piano, right, at a young age. And I mean, I remember when he first learned how to play Seven Nation Army by White Stripes,
Yeah.
dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun dun. And if there's no vocals, there's no ending to that song. And so
No, there's not.
I remember sitting there at their house. He came out. He was probably 10, wanted to play us a song, and the song went on for like 10 minutes.
Oh my God. You're
He
like,
just kept
okay.
going. We're like, okay, oh, it's not over. All right, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
But he became very proficient at piano, and then one day just up and decided he wanted to play guitar. So he spent a very little time learning the fretboard,
mm.
and he was so good at piano that he was able to cross over, and he was a ridiculously good guitar player after playing for a year.
Wow.
And
That's
now he
great.
plays, I haven't seen him in years, but he plays everything
Yeah.
and well.
What kind of music did you grow up listening to?
Um, I mean, I grew up listening to rock. That was my choosing,
Mhm.
but my parents, it was doo-wop, it was Motown, it was R&B,
Okay.
60s soul, or yeah, 60s soul. A lot of black artists
Mm.
in the house. My dad grew up in Virginia, and he and his friend Alan Leeds, I don't know if you know that name.
Alan Leeds.
Alan Leeds, he was tour manager for James Brown, Prince, Kiss.
Wow.
Um, like he's a legend in the bit. He's won Grammys for writing liner notes for James Brown box sets.
Really?
Yeah, he's actually doing another James Brown book right now. Um, but in the early 60s, they were like, there was three of them. It was Alan, his brother Rick, Eric, who was Prince's sax player,
Oh wow.
Eric Leeds, the redheaded guy,
Yeah.
um, and my dad, just three white guys, three white Jewish guys from Virginia, would hang out with all the black R&B artists, Jerry Butler, James Brown, all these guys when they would come through town. And so that was constant. That kind of music was constantly on in my house.
That's so
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah,
man.
it was really cool. It was a great education in music.
Yeah. Now with music, have you ever like composed any music for television or film?
Um, I have nothing that you would ever have heard.
Right.
Uh, I did a movie years ago, and I wanted to be part of this movie so badly that for my audition, I recorded a song and brought the cassette into
Mm.
the audition, and I was like, "Listen, if you hire me, great, but if you don't, I'd love to be part of this movie somehow. Here, take this, and you know, whatever." And I ended up a month later, I get a call that I got the job as an actor in this movie. And on the set, a couple months later, the director said to me, he's like, "You know how you got the job?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "We were still trying to cast the role, and I looked in my briefcase and I saw your cassette, and I was like, oh yeah, that guy."
Oh my God.
Yeah. And but as far as the song in the movie, they used it in a rough cut of the movie. Um, they used my song in a scene and paid me. I got like $5,000 for it or whatever. But then when the movie actually came out, it was replaced by the song "Mouth" from Bush.
Oh wow.
But mine was in an original edit, temporary placement.
Right.
That's
Right.
kind of the closest I've gotten to writing a song for a film.
Right. You know how Ray talks about getting mailbox money for all this
Yeah,
stuff? Do you
yeah.
get mailbox money for the voice stuff you did with Carl's or anything else or your
Not for
acting
Carl's,
roles?
not for Carl's, but I mean, residuals are
Mm.
mailbox money, and that's pretty
Right.
much the bulk of the money that we make. We get paid a session fee, but
Yep.
then we get paid for usage. And so, session fee it's a decent chunk of change for the amount of work you're doing, but it's this,
Yep.
and the residuals are this.
Really?
I mean, it can be
Yeah.
depending on the run type. Like if it's a national network TV commercial, yeah.
Super Bowl
It-
Super Bowl commercial.
you know what? That's sort of that's a fallacy. Everybody's like, oh my God, I got a Super Bowl commercial. It's great. Super Bowl commercials suck. Here's why.
Really?
You get paid the same amount, but a lot of them only run once. You know?
It costs so much probably to air that 1 or 2 times.
It's to air it during the Super Bowl, they're paying, because you got the biggest audience in the world, they're, $5 million, $6 million now, I think it is for a minute spot or something. So they're, they go through these huge productions because it's going to be seen by so many people. But think about how many Super Bowl commercials you've seen during the Super Bowl that you saw afterwards. There's a few, the Snickers had one, with Betty White and
Right.
like stuff like that will stand up. But for the most part, it's kind of a one and done thing. So you get your session fee, which is the same as every session fee. And when you do a session, it comes, I think built in is like a holding fee for like a certain amount of uses per 13-week cycle. So if they only run it once or twice, you've gotten paid. You're done. So you're not making a killing off of a Super Bowl ad. The reason why actors want Super Bowl ads is for that exposure to hopefully lead to other things.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And when people can only hear you and not see you, that's probably a little bit more challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
For the most part. No, what you want is a national network commercial, or in my case, Carl's was not national network, but it ran, West Coast, and it ran in such heavy rotation that it was a little more than half of what a national network would have been. But I also did Hardee's, which was also just a little more than half. And most of the time they were the same commercial. I would just change the tagline. So I ended up in the long run making more money than if it would have been a national network commercial.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was the best gig ever.
Oh, I'm sure, man.
Yeah.
God, did you ever get to ad lib any lines, or was it straight? This is it.
Not ad lib per se, but if they were having issues with they definitely would listen to my input. It was collaborative in the room, and those guys had obviously final say, but every now and then I would pitch an idea that they'd be like, oh, let's try it, and it would work. So they weren't closed off to it. They were very open to listening. That they were smart enough to know that the more voices, the better.
Right.
Yeah.
Some people just can't help to just get out of their own way.
Yeah.
With ego.
Yeah.
I've dealt with that with a few of my movies. It's like, dude, come on, man.
Yeah, totally.
Let's be real here.
Yeah.
As far as music or even film, what is your dream collaboration, living or dead?
My dream collaboration.
Let's do it in both. In film or television, who would you just die to work with?
I mean, aside from your typical answers, and they're your typical answers for a reason, De Niro, Al Pacino, Leonardo DiCaprio has become such a phenomenal talent. I mean, he's always was great, but he's earned that sort of, he's earned being in that echelon with De Niro and Pacino, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Meryl Streep. I mean, I would love to work with people that I'd be nervous to be in the room with.
Have you ever been nervous in front of an actor or an actress that you're just I cannot believe I'm next to this person?
Kind of, sort of. Once I got to work with Gary Oldman, which was
wow.
Yeah, but it was on a really bad thing. It was a really bad gig, and the lines I had to say were, for this particular episode, were pretty embarrassing. And I remember thinking while I'm shooting the scene in front of an audience, I'm like, I can't believe I have to say this shit in front of Gary Oldman. He is never going to have any respect for me as an actor whatsoever.
Oh no.
Yeah.
What show was it? Can you tell me, or no?
I don't know that I should say.
No.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to.
Bad.
I don't want to. Well, I just don't want to offend people because I still.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. What about
Luckily, that show never aired. So.
Oh, it did.
Well, the show aired, but that episode never aired. So.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
What about with music? Who would be your dream collaborative band or group of people?
The Beatles would be amazing. Paul McCartney would be insane.
Mm,
It's funny. One of his guitar players, and I'm blanking on his name right now, lives in Malibu,
right.
and there's a church in Malibu that they do events, very community oriented because I'm not Catholic or Christian, but we go to the events there. One of my really good friends, Joel, runs all the events there, and they do a father-daughter dance every year.
Oh,
And I'm looking at this guy. I'm like, God, why do I know that guy? I know him from somewhere. And Joel's like, oh yeah, he's whatever his name is. That's Paul McCartney's guitar player. I was like, God damn it, that's so cool.
that is
Yeah.
cool. Oh man.
The only time I've ever been starstruck, and this is funny, I was at an event, some celebrity event at the Hollywood Athletic Club back when that was a thing in the
Right.
90s. And Randolph Mantooth was there from the show Emergency. He played
Hmm.
John Gage. And at this point, I'm on a TV series and I'm kind of known. It was a Fox show, and I was that like teeny bopper type, whatever, in that Luke Perry sort of camp.
Right.
And so I was at that thing, I was more known than he was, because he was at this point, he was on a soap opera. And not a lot of people my age knew who he was.
Right.
But I'm like, Emergency was it for me when I was a kid. I watched every chance I would get. And I knew all the, KMG 365. I knew all the lingo and all that stuff. And so there was Randolph Mantooth, and I was just like, just frozen.
Oh my God.
Somebody's like, hey Phil, this is Randolph Mantooth. I was like, yeah. I was stopped in my tracks.
Where's the strangest place you've had a celebrity encounter?
The strangest place I've had a celebrity encounter. I don't know. That's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, most of my celebrity encounters are in town, and so that's not that
Right.
strange. I'm in LA, but this is a funny story. So I'm in Luxembourg for like 4 months filming a movie back in the 90s. And it took us a while to get sort of ingratiated with the locals because we were the stereotypical obnoxious Americans.
Right.
Like when we first got there, we went out to clubs and we're like, woo! And all of a sudden people are looking at us and we're like, oh shit, where are those guys? And so it took us a little time to like calm the fuck down and just be cool. And then they started like bringing us, we started becoming friends with locals, and they started bringing us to the actual places that they go. And so one night we're at a club, and it was bizarre. Luxembourg, a lot of Luxembourg is built on these old ancient tunnels.
Hmm.
They're called the casements, and that's like that was like the fortresses, and that's where they used to fight. Like you see the tunnels in Paris, like they're all like low and in out of rock. Same deal, right? So to get to this club, I remember you go into a store, and you have to go into a door in the back, but you have to know somebody to go there.
Right.
And you go down these stairs, and you're just going, and you're like, I don't know, 5 stories underground, and it opens up, and there's this room in the rock, and there's music and a bar and some lights, and that's the club. So we're down in there, and one of my co-stars was he was like messing around with this girl. They were like making out and stuff. And I'm drunk, and I'm like, I'm gonna fuck with him. And I like start like slapping his butt, like grabbing him and all this stuff, like just playing around. And the guy next to him looks at me, and he's like, hey Phil. I'm like, oh hey Chris. Like it was my neighbor from LA, who I lived in the Fairfax district in those fourplex apartment buildings where you could see into your neighbor's place across the street.
Right.
He was my neighbor from directly across the street, happened to be in Luxembourg filming a movie also
Wow.
at a different studio. But it was like, I'm messing with Vince. Vince Viloff was the actor I'm messing with. Just messing with him, like, trying to annoy him while he's kissing this girl.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
he's like, hey Phil. I'm like, hey Chris, what the fuck
What
are
are
you
you doing
doing?
here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
That's
was the
wild.
strangest encounter.
I remember I was in Hawaii a couple of years ago with my ex-girlfriend, and we're in the pool, and we're hanging out with some other pretty well-known people. One of them was an NBA player.
Mhm.
Can't remember his name. and his husband. He was the first gay athlete really to come out.
Okay.
NBA player. Jason Collins
Mm-hmm.
is his name. And we're sitting in a pool, and there's this comedian, Lil Rel Howery.
Okay.
You know, he was in Get Out and a bunch of other movies. He was ripped,
Yeah.
hammered. He's sitting out of the pool, and there's this other couple, you know, sitting over. And, you know, I was in Calabasas at the time. And we're just kind of sitting there. And the one girl that we didn't know looks over at Jason Collins, like, Jason? Oh my God. I forget what her name is, but they went to elementary school all the way through high school together.
Oh, that's funny.
And then she turns around, looks at my ex-girlfriend, and goes, mentions her name. It's like, what? Neighbors in Calabasas.
That's funny.
Just everybody there. Next thing I know, Lil Rel Howery's going underwater, blacks out.
Oh, jeez.
We have to save his lower, pulling him up. It was a crazy, but that was like a crazy celebrity experience type thing.
Yeah.
And then there was another time at the Georgia Dome before they tore it down for the new Mercedes Dome. This was years ago. It was when I was doing photography, like professionally, and I was commissioned by like Topps or Fleer football card company to shoot a Falcons Ravens game. And I brought my son with me. I was able to get him a field pass. And we're going up to the press box. So we get in the elevator, and in walks Hank Aaron and Billy White Shoes Johnson. And I'm like, oh my God, man. And my son knew exactly who Hank Aaron was because he was an Atlanta legend.
Yeah.
But I thought that was pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah. So your one starstruck guy was a soap opera star.
Yeah.
in on Emergency.
Yeah. That he was it for me when I was a kid.
Yeah. What about musician? Have you met a musician that just kind of like, whoa, I'm in the presence of this guy?
Sort of. So when I was in college, my favorite band was The Cult. I still love The Cult.
Oh, they're great.
Great band. And for the 21st anniversary of the Viper Room, I get a call from Billy Morrison, from Billy Idol's band.
Yeah.
And he's like, right, so what we're doing is we're putting together a band for the 21st anniversary of the Viper Room. And we're trying to figure out who to play bass. And Steve says to me, what about that Phil Buckman guy? And I'm like, whoa, stop. Steve Stevens? Because from Billy Idol, he's like, yeah. So the band's going to be me, Steve, and Eric Aldenas, our drummer. And we just want a different bass player that we can play with. I'm like, Steve Stevens knows who I am? He's like, yeah. You want the gig or not? I'm like, yeah, I want the gig.
Oh my God.
So I get to do this thing. That's actually how I met Jeff Scott Soto.
Oh, okay.
He was one of the singers. So we were the band. The four of us were the backing band, and we had different guests that came up and jammed with us. Jeff sang a couple of songs. Carla from Butcher Babies, now from the Violent Hour.
Yep.
She came out. She was fucking rad. She's such a sweetheart. Sebastian Bach sang, and Steve Vai played and sang. He said, you can put that, you can go on YouTube and see that.
Wow.
That dude, at one point there's a guitar battle going on between Steve Vai and Steve Stevens.
Oh.
And in the video, I'm right in the middle. And they cut the camera before this, but I remember the line I said afterwards. I was like, if anybody has a video of that, please send it to me, because that's the threesome I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
But yeah, just those guys were amazing. But then Billy Duffy.
Oh, wow.
And we played Rain. So I got to do a Cult song with Billy Duffy, which was just such a highlight for me.
Yeah.
And my buddy from college, who was also a huge Cult fan, was there. He was in town from the Bay Area, and he posted a picture. And the comment I remember he wrote, he goes, I remember sitting in the dorms in Tenoshka, that was the dorm at San Diego State. I remember sitting in the dorms and listening to the Cult with Phil Buckman, and now here I am watching him on stage with Billy Duffy playing a Cult song. It's like,
that's wild.
Just amazing. Yeah. So that to me was a huge, huge highlight. And then not long after that, they replaced Chris Weiss, left the band, and as the bass player. And I ran into Billy at a NAMM show, and I was like, oh man, I wish I knew you were looking for a bass player, because And he's like, oh yeah, your name came up. I'm like, what? And they got Grant Fitzpatrick, who I met. I told him that story, and he couldn't have been nicer. And then he just left, and now they have another bass player. But I was like, oh, that would have been a dream gig for me. I was such a huge Cult fan.
Yeah, they're great, man.
Yeah.
Dude, I saw them. Did they ever open for Metallica?
They might have.
Yeah, I think they did during the Black Album era.
Mm.
Back to photography. What is your go-to camera these days? Like
my Sony A7R5.
Yeah.
I just got it a few months ago. Liking it so far. You know, the file sizes are huge.
Yeah.
But I had to upgrade my computer.
Really?
I was using a MacBook Intel, the last
Mhm.
of the Intels, which was
Okay.
slow. I mean, even with my A7 IV files, it was slow. But with the A7R5, it was just ridiculous. But so I got the M4, all the bells and whistles, and yeah, I don't notice much of a lag.
Right.
It's actually pretty speedy. But yeah, so far I'm liking it. I love that you can take a picture all the way out here and zoom into that, and it's still
clean,
super clean.
What's your lens setup look like?
Well, it depends on the day.
Oh, okay.
It's my new problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use my 70-200 GM2,
Yep.
2.8 a lot. Actually, I don't have it here right now. I lent it to my friend Sean. I said he was staying here. He's doing a shoot downtown. So I was like, try it, take it, check it out. Yep. This lens right here, which is on my A7 IV, is the Sigma 24-70 version 1.
Okay.
It's a great lens.
Yeah.
Eventually, I would like to do the GM2 the GM2 of that one as well. I've got the Sigma 14-24 for a super wide. Those are my 3 zooms. And then I have some primes. I have the 85 1.8 Sony, which I want to upgrade to the 85 GM2.
Yep.
Which I've heard is just ridiculously incredible.
Right.
I've got the Zeiss 55 1.8.
I have that. Yeah.
It's a great lens.
Yeah.
I do want to upgrade to the 50 1.2.
Yeah.
I've heard just nothing but amazing things on that one. I have the macro, the 90 millimeter macro, which is great. I use that for most of my product stuff because the detail is insane.
Right.
I have the 24 millimeter 1.4 GM. What else do I have? Do I have more? I don't think I have more. Maybe I don't know. I mean, I have some APC lenses for my A6400 as well.
Right.
I have the Holy Trinity, the Sigma Holy Trinity.
Yeah, for my Sony A7, I went with all the Zeiss primes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love them.
Zeiss glass is great.
Yeah, and then I got the my zoom is one of the Sony 20 something to whatever it is. I don't know. I haven't used that camera in so long, man. It's embarrassing. I got to pull it out. It's funny, man, because the last time, I'd quit photography for a bunch of years when I hit the road. And I have, prior to shooting the last Dolly Parton album cover I shot, I hadn't picked up a camera until this year. And that was in 2016.
Yeah.
Shot shit. Then I started going through all those negatives. And what I told you, I was like, I want to get back into this. I miss this, Yeah. No, it just took a while.
It's so satisfying when it all kind of comes together, when you're sitting in the studio. And I did my buddy Paul, his son wants to be a model, and he asked if I would shoot some portrait stuff for him, like editorial style, like for modeling shoots. And I was like, sure, let's give it a shot. And we came in, I had preset the lighting that I wanted to use, completely ready to go. I've got a mannequin, so I set my focus. I dialed everything in.
Right.
And then he came and he sat there, and I took one picture, and I shoot tethered, so I've got it on my laptop, and I have a monitor right there, 27-inch monitor.
Yeah.
And it came up on the screen, and Paul and I both were just like, God damn, that looks good. Like just the first,
Yeah.
so there's something satisfying when you have a vision of something
And it looks like it does.
and it looks like it or even exceeds what you were hoping for.
Yeah.
That's
See, I
happened
had
to me a
to
bunch of times.
when I got the job to do the Dolly uh, album cover, I've done 2 of them. The
Mhm,
first one was I was on tour with Stained,
mhm.
and I got the call from her manager, and they wanted to do it the next day. I'm like, 1 day's notice? You
Jeez.
know? But luckily, I had a great crew in Atlanta. I was still in Atlanta at the time.
Mhm.
So I had them drive up to Nashville and pre-light everything. I was like, "Can we just get into the studio a day early?" Because she had her own compound,
Yeah,
which was insane.
I'm sure.
So, we had to just run a truckload of shit because it's Dolly Parton. You don't know
Right,
what you're gonna need or not need
right.
because she is white. Like, her
Yeah,
makeup's white, her wig is white,
yeah.
just everything is white. So it was nerve-wracking. So I get in, and it went without a hitch, man. She loved every photo,
Wow.
and that's the day she shaved my head. Yeah. Yeah, she's like, there was a film crew filming behind the scenes stuff. She's like, "Can I shave your head for a scene in this music video?" I'm like, my little fuck yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
yes, you can.
yes. Who else has had this done?
Yeah.
So she did it, and then a few years later, it was at the world premiere of Hired Gun. I get another call from her people saying, "Hey, can you shoot her next album cover? She wants to shoot it on Tuesday." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah,
I think our screening was on a Saturday, so it gave me enough time to get home.
yeah.
And I did. It was called Pure and Simple. And it's funny because yesterday she posted a picture on her Instagram page of one of the photos I took of her
That's awesome.
celebrating Easter, which was really cool.
That's really
But
cool.
since then, and it was terrifying because I had, I still have it. I have type 2 diabetes and it fucks with your vision.
Mhm.
I'll never forget getting into town, and everything's lit up and, we're shooting a bunch of stuff outdoors and I'm just doing some test shots. And my first AC was like, "These look a little fuzzy to you?" I'm like, "Looks fine to me,"
Mm.
but my sugar was up, so my vision was blurry, and I didn't know, and I'm like, These are not sharp, man. This shit's fuzzy."
Yeah,
I'm like, "Fuck, what can we do?" So we had to set it on auto, you
yeah,
know, which was terrifying. You get one shot with Dolly, you know what
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
luckily, we got it figured out and fixed, and the rest is kinda history, I'm gonna throw this picture up because this is a buddy of mine.
Oh, yeah. Derek.
Derek Green. How do you
Yeah.
know Derek?
So, we had met, through you. We went to
Oh.
dinner one time with him and Tanya
Oh, Callahan, yeah.
Callahan,
Yep.
and your Kodak buddy. We went to the vegan restaurant.
Oh, Crossroads
Yeah,
on Melrose,
yeah,
La Cienega or whatever.
yeah. So that's where we met,
Okay.
but what we had in common was his roommate at the time was my ex-girlfriend, who I'm still very good friends with, Kimberly.
Such a small
And
world.
she was his roommate the entire time, she
Yeah.
lived in LA. Well, from that point on until she moved back to Ohio. And so this night, this was from a benefit for my guitar player in Petty Cash, Jason, who's dealing with stage 4 colon cancer.
Oh, God. That's
And
awful.
so we had this benefit um, at oh god, I can't think of the name of the theater now, but it was a couple months ago, and I knew that there was going to be a bunch of people there that I would want pictures of, and so not knowing what the place would look like, I brought this huge ass softbox that I'm using to light myself right now,
Yeah.
a strobe, and then another strobe with just a short throw reflector.
Mhm.
And I was looking for a spot, and you walk out of the back of the theater into an alley to go into the dressing room, and it's locked off. There was a security guard there, and this was the mural on the wall.
That is so cool.
So I set up the light. I do from the side,
Mhm.
and then I put the small one behind the subject to shoot up. I'm pointing, like you can see where I'm pointing,
Yeah.
uh, to shoot at that little window type mural, but right directly behind him.
Okay.
And I got pictures of anybody that came through. But I, for my, for myself, for my website, which I'm still building, but I wanted to get like, I knew there'd be, known people there. So I got Derek, I got Noodles and his wife from Offspring,
Hmm.
Jesse Green, she played violin for Pink and Foo Fighters, and Rami from Foo Fighters, and Kevin Martin from Candlebox.
Oh, cool.
Yes, and Brett, my singer, from Fuel, Brett
Yep.
Scallions was there. So I got some amazing portraits, and I
It's a
had a
great
little
shot.
photo booth backstage that it was super low key. My daughter Charlie was with me the whole night helping me out.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, she was great. And it was fun.
It's funny, man. When I met Derek, Derek Green, by the way, is the singer for Sepultura.
Yep.
Was in the year 2000. I toured with Sepultura on this big package festival tour with Slayer and Slipknot and all these guys. And at that dinner that you're talking about at Crossroads was the first time I saw him since that tour ended.
Oh wow.
I'd shot them a few more times, but never in a like a portrait session type thing, just live. But I was like, oh my God. I was like, you probably won't remember me, but he did,
Yeah.
and we hit it off that night and have been in touch ever since and still hang out. And by the way, he wants to get into
Oh,
voice.
does he?
Yeah. And he's got a really unique, distinctive type
Yeah.
voice.
So I reminded him who I was. He didn't remember me,
Uh,
just from the dinner. I was like, "Oh yeah," and I didn't even. I don't even know if I talked about the dinner, but I was like, we'd met before. I'm Kimberly's ex, your old
yeah.
roommate, and I mean, to be fair, she's had a few exes, so
Yep.
maybe. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many, but I mean, like we dated in the early '90s.
Right.
Um, but he was like, "Oh yeah, okay," but I don't think he put two and two together.
Right.
And then after I posted the picture, I think she made a comment, and that like he was like, "Oh, okay." So then he started following me.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah. Super cool guy.
yeah, really nice guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And a monster front man. Oh
Yeah,
my God. Don't know if
yeah,
you've
yeah.
seen them or not, but it's great. What was the last movie you saw that blew your mind?
The last movie, listen, Wicked was great.
Yeah, I have not seen that yet.
Wicked was great. I mean, I'm biased.
Mhm.
John Chu, the director,
Yeah.
is a neighbor and a friend.
Okay.
And I like when when he told us he was going to London for a year to shoot Wicked. I'm super supportive of my friends, so I was cheering for him the entire time. And then watching the movie, it's visually, it's just so spectacular.
Right.
I mean, he got ripped off by not getting the Academy nomination for Best Director.
Right.
I mean, he 100% should have.
Yeah.
He was nominated for Best Picture, but he doesn't get Best Director.
Director.
Doesn't make
It kind
sense.
of goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah, you'd think.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like record of the year and the producer doesn't get a
yeah,
nomination.
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But it's spectacular visually. It's mind blowing, and a lot of the stuff is practical. Like when you see the movie, the train is practical. They built it.
Really?
It's not CGI. The wizard, the big head of the wizard is practical. It was done with wires. It's not done by CGI.
Wow.
And the singing, first of all, Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo are ridiculous vocalists.
Yeah.
They sang everything live. They,
On set.
on set, they sang
Unbelievable.
everything live. I mean, I don't know if the track was fully formed, but there was, like a piano player,
Yeah.
I think at the very least. But all the vocals that they used were, and Cynthia Erivo was flying, in harness, flying all over during the final scene of the movie. And that's all her singing while she's flying and like hitting these notes. And like, it's just such an emotional pull. My wife was ugly crying at the end of it. My
Yeah.
goddaughter was ugly crying at the end of it. I took pictures of it and I sent it to John. I'm like, you did this.
Right.
Um,
That's
but
fun.
yeah, it floored me,
Right.
and
It's,
I'm not the demo for that movie.
yeah.
You
no
know,
doubt. I
my
think
wife,
then
my wife is, my kids are,
right,
I'm not. And I was just, my jaw was on the floor. It was so good.
right. I'll tell you what I can't wait for is the new Mission Impossible that comes out next month.
Yeah, that'll be cool. I mean,
I'm a
they're always cool,
huge
right?
fan of that franchise and
Yeah.
Tom Cruise. I know a
Yeah.
lot of people are on the fence about that guy, but to me, he and probably Leonardo DiCaprio are the two last living movie stars.
Yeah.
You
George,
know?
I put George Clooney in there too.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
George,
He's great. He's
yeah.
great.
I mean, you
Especially
mean,
with some of the Coen brother, like what was it? Burn After Reading.
yeah,
Did you
I didn't
see
see
that?
that.
Oh
I
my
didn't see it.
God. You've got to see it. It's
But
so good.
he's another one of those guys. Like I've known his career since, Facts of Life, and
Yep.
even before.
ER and all that stuff.
Yeah,
What's
but yeah,
what's
before
if
that,
yeah, if you could
um,
star in a film with a director, who would that director be?
well, I would love to work with John.
Okay.
So John Chu, if you're watching this,
Yeah. Hey, next door neighbor.
don't just come over for pizza.
Yeah.
Hire me. I again, the standards, Scorsese,
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg, um, what's his name? Aronofsky,
Oh
you,
yeah.
you know, um, oh, David Lynch. I mean, obviously too late for that, but I
Yeah.
also say that because we just started doing transcendental meditation,
Mm.
which he was a very huge proponent of, and we learned through the David Lynch organization, David Lynch Foundation.
Oh, cool.
Um, uh, but yeah, I mean, the standards, it's hard not to. They're legends for a reason,
Mm.
you know. Um,
Quentin Tarantino.
yeah, absolutely. If he ever wants to direct another movie, didn't he say he was done?
I think he's got one more in him. I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, man. You talking about being starstruck, and I don't know if I was going to shit or throw up, but I won. I did not win. I received an award
Mhm.
from Kodak, right, for excellence in documentary filmmaking or whatnot. And I didn't really know who was going to be there, right?
Mhm.
So I show up, and all of a sudden, you know, all this press is there, everything else, and they're getting ready their categories, and out comes Quentin Tarantino. He got the Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm like, oh
Mhm.
my God, Quentin Tarantino. And who gives him the award? Christopher Nolan.
Okay.
I'm like, Jesus Christ. Now I
Yeah.
got to speak in front of these people. And I don't like this is hard for me, what we're
Yeah.
doing here. And then and then Greta Gerwig is there getting an
Yeah.
award, and her husband, Noah Baumbach. Then there's a musician who shoots all the stuff exclusively on 16 millimeter, Tyler the Creator. He was there. And then I had to go speak,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what am I? First of all, I have no business being here,
Yeah.
and I'm in the room with these people. It was, it was a trip, man.
Yeah.
But I was soaking it all in. I'm like, just shake my hand so maybe some of your mojo will come off of me, man. And everybody was so cool. It was neat.
Yeah.
What's a totally random hobby you have that nobody knows about?
Total random hobby. Um, hmm. I mean, I kind of mentioned I make pizza.
Okay, so you
I,
make
I make
kick-ass pizza.
I make pizza from scratch. Make the dough myself. Yeah. It started. I got into it at the beginning of COVID.
Oh, okay.
Neapolitan pizza is my favorite food,
Oh,
and there is no good place to get
right,
a good Neapolitan pizza close to where I live.
right.
And YouTube, found some videos on YouTube,
There you
went
go.
through my process of elimination of who's telling the truth and who's full of shit.
Yeah.
And then even the ones that were great educators in it, I took from them and bastardized what they were doing to make it my own. And I am I can confidently say that I make, for me, the best Neapolitan pizza I've ever had.
Well, when
Um,
I come to visit California, you'll have to
happily,
invite me over, and I'll gladly take that challenge on.
happily. It's, we have friends that have come over for it, not knowing what to expect, and now call my place their favorite restaurant.
Really?
I had a friend who came for a birthday party. She was an acquaintance, so she wasn't like a good friend at the time. We're closer now. Um, and she came for, you know, I made pizzas for this friend of mine who says that my place is her favorite restaurant. And this woman went and told her husband, who's a friend of mine, she's like, the only thing I can equate it to is when we were in Naples. She's like, she said, it brought me back to being in Naples. And she goes, and honestly, I don't know which one was better, his or the one in Naples.
Wow. You know who makes a good pizza? He's probably not a household name, but he's a rapper producer. His name is Mike Will Made It. He
Okay.
did a lot of Kendrick Lamar, everybody.
Uh,
But he approached me about doing a documentary on him and flew to Atlanta to meet with him. And he's like, "You like pizza, bro?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I like pizza." You know, he goes, "Step into the kitchen." So he has this giant compound with a
yeah.
kitchen and everything. Man, he baked a really, really good pizza.
Nice.
We may have to have a pizza face off here.
We can do it. Yeah, we built an outdoor kitchen a couple of years ago, and as we're building it, my wife asked one of our neighbors, who she really likes her taste, to come and help us design it. And so we're walking through it, and I have a griddle, a flat top griddle, like that. Well, that was the basis of building this kitchen, because we had a small patch of stone, flagstone, that, you know, we could do this on. And during COVID, our neighborhood is it's a tight community, and we were very small, and we all hung out. We were our own bubble, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I started making breakfast on the weekends, and people would come, and it started to be a fight to who could come, because we can only do like one or two other families at a time. And so my wife and I, like, we have all this lawn that's kind of like slopes, like, let's level it and build a huge patio outdoor kitchen. And so we did. And so Lindsay's over, and she's like, okay, so you put the griddle over here, and you put a grill over here, and you put a pizza oven over here. And I'm like, pizza? I'm not putting a fucking pizza. Wait a second. And that was literally the spark that I was like, pizza oven. So I literally went online. I keep saying literally all the time.
Yeah.
I went online, and I'm like, uni ovens. And so I bought an uni oven and started learning how to make it. And my first pizzas were okay. And then graduated to, I have a Gosney Dome pizza oven out there.
Dude.
And you know, and I have, what's the brand? A Fromage dough mixer, because I literally, said it again, burned through 4 KitchenAid mixers making
Holy
my dough.
shit.
And, you know, the KitchenAid mixer can only make like 6 dough balls at a time. Like, that's the size of the batch, but I would burn through them. And so I bought this Fromage. I can make 48 dough balls in one shot if I needed to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which isn't, I mean, it's not enough for a restaurant, but it's plenty
Yeah.
for your home.
Every now and then I'll see Paul Stanley on Instagram or TikTok
Yeah.
throwing dough. You
Yeah.
ever see that? You do that as well?
No, I don't throw the dough that much.
Yeah.
It's gimmicky.
Right.
But yeah, no, I'm friends with Evan, his son.
Yeah.
Who
I was
I've
gonna say,
known.
is everything that Kiss does gimmicky?
It's a good point. Great point.
Right.
But no, Evan, I've known Evan forever. So that kid I was talking about before, who played piano and then guitar,
Yeah.
his first band when he was 13 was a band called Jupiter's Ring. And Evan Stanley was the guitar player in the band. When he was
Okay.
13.
Evan's talented, man.
Oh my God. At 13, he
Yeah.
was a better guitar player than his father. And he would admit that.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
Paul would admit that. Evan was an incredible, talented guitar player at 13. Now he's like ridiculous.
Mind-blowing. Yeah.
You know, I think he's 30 now. But
Jesus.
so I, you know, I was friends with the other kid's dad. So I, you know, got them into my studio, and I brought my guitar player in the band that I was in at the time to produce their demo. So they recorded their demo here. Paul came to pick him up here, which was kind of cool.
Oh, wow.
Paul Stanley's been in this room.
Damn.
I know, right? And yeah, it was cool. Like, you know, he came in all kind of like rock starry, just not attitude, but guarded.
Yeah, of course.
You know, dude's been famous since he's 19 years old.
Yeah, as he should be.
At the time, he was 55, I think. And he comes in, and he's talking, you know, he's like very kind of standoffish and what have you. And I was like, where'd you go to elementary school? He's like, I'm sorry, what? I go, did you go to PS 164 in Queens, in New York? He's like, I did. I'm like, yeah, me too.
Oh my God, that's an icebreaker.
I said, any chance you had A Mrs. Riccio, do you remember, for 3rd grade? Because my mom had her. My mom's older than Paul, and
Yeah.
I had her. When she retired after or during my year, and he's like, I think I did, but you could see his shoulders drop,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it was 2 guys from Queens talking, and not Paul Stanley Rockstar and some guy he has no idea.
Right.
It was literally right over there.
That is so cool, man.
Yeah. But and then Evan and I reconnect. We ran into each other at a Costco, of all places, a few months ago, and exchanged numbers. And I actually he's recording with Nick Simmons right now, and I was supposed to go in the studio and shoot some live stuff. But we keep like,
It's tough, man.
it's tough. But I may do some promo stuff for them.
Oh, cool.
To shoot some promo stuff for them, which would be cool.
That is wild. If you weren't in the entertainment, voiceover, actor, musician, where do you think your career would have led you?
That's a tough question, because I've been doing this since I'm 15.
Yep.
And I had my last day job, like punch a clock job, when I was 20.
Yep.
What
was that?
I worked in a record store.
Oh, that's not really a job. That's fun.
Yeah, well, kind of fun.
Right.
I did have a job for a minute. I worked at a California Restaurant Association. One of my fraternity brothers who had graduated was working at the California Restaurant Association, and they had like some entry job, like literally writing in numbers in a book. And I got that gig, but I was acting, and during my time there, I auditioned for and booked a role on Days of Our Lives, just a 1-day guest star, like one scene thing. And they were like, if you're not going to take this job seriously, then maybe this isn't the place for you. And I'm like, well, I guess it isn't. And I left. And
wow.
And yeah, I'm like, so those are like the last 2, and that was 20 for both those jobs. So that was the last time I had a punch the clock job. So
could you ever imagine going back to doing that? Having somebody like over you? Like,
no.
That's what a lot of people don't understand, because a lot of my friends that aren't in this kind of industry, like a gig economy or gig type job, there's a lot of you're lucky.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, I'm not lucky.
Yeah.
I busted my ass
totally
to get here and do this. And I don't think there's that much luck in working hard.
Yeah.
And being great at something, or achieving to be great,
I consider myself super lucky, super fortunate, that, I'm 55 years old and I've only done this.
Yep.
I
think I was 28 when I punched my last clock.
Yeah.
And I quit the job because I was hired by Capitol Records to shoot something with Megadeth in New York. And I was like, I need to go to New York next week. Well, you can't. We have to do inventory. I'm like, and I was a father, and divorced and paying child support.
Yeah, that's rough.
I was like, oh my God, what do I do?
Yeah.
That's
rough.
Yeah. And I've just been shooting here and there for like Metal Edge, making nothing. Right. But I just took the leap, man. I was like, fuck it. I cannot do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I just jumped out of the damn airplane without a parachute, and thank God I did.
It worked out
fine for me. Yeah.
But like I was saying earlier, with the business, the way it's changed so much, that's why I'm pushing to do photography professionally.
Yep.
Because I have no control over the other, getting hired for the other jobs. As much as I audition, I'm auditioning for between 5 and 10 gigs a day on voiceover.
Wow.
And the way things are now, I was saying how the influx of people and the lack of union work, if I book a new job every few months, it's like, it's a win. And, compared to how I was saying how it was before, where, a couple of jobs a week at least. So at 55 constantly, they're thinking about how to reinvent myself. And for whatever reason, my pictures are striking a chord with people. And, and I never set out to say, I want to be a professional photographer.
Me neither.
It's come from people saying like, you need to be a professional photographer. you know, for
Same.
whatever reason, you
Yeah.
know, like, look, I can't balance a checkbook to save my ass, but I can shoot a picture,
Yep.
and I am creative in Lightroom, Photoshop, and, you know, all the, which is, you know,
The
70,
tool. Yeah.
80% of the picture. It's not just
Yeah.
snapping, it's what you do with it.
Right. Right.
Um,
You ever get
and,
the desire to like direct or write or anything like that, produce a show?
um, so writing, I would love to. I have ADHD, something fierce.
Hmm.
So I've had great ideas, but I can't put pen to paper and spit them out.
Right.
I've worked with people before and have come up with scripts that way, writing partners, and I've pitched some shows I pitched to Sony, some shows in the past. You know, nothing happened with it. Directing, same thing. After City of Angels got canceled, I went to Stephen Bochco. I went and had a meeting with him, and I said, "Listen, I want to do what you did for Betty Thomas. She was on Hill Street Blues, and after that show ended, or even during while it was still on, she would come and shadow directors on his
Hmm.
shows and learned how to be a director. And Betty Thomas became, you know, she directed Private Parts, Brady Bunch movie. I mean,
Right.
she was a legendary um, director, and he was all for it. He said, "Yeah, let's do that." And then, for better or for worse, I booked another TV show immediately after that. So I didn't do that,
Right.
and I always felt bad about the flake. You know, I flaked on him, but I ran into him after. I was at a cast dinner with the new show I was on, and he was there with his wife, and I was like, "This is why I kind of flaked. I'm doing this." And he was like,
Yeah.
"It's all good. You know, I understand."
So what's next for you?
Um,
Any projects coming up or
you know,
showings or anything like that?
one day at a time, man, just trying to get a job. I did some commercials for Cologuard this morning.
Yeah.
Those will start running. And let's see, let me look at my email here. I've got an audition that I have to go do. Oh, this is for Jimmy Kimmel for voiceover for one of his bits,
Right.
which it's too late now. They we get those all the time, which is cool. I've
Right.
done one. I did an imitation of the TMZ voice for a Kimmel bit like
Uh,
5 years ago or something like that. But no, my auditions will start rolling in the next hour-ish, and
hmm.
I'll, you know, throw it all against the wall and see what sticks. Waiting for the on-camera stuff to pick up. It's been brutally slow,
Man,
you
you don't
know.
have to tell me, dude. It's
I've had
painful right now. Yeah.
I've had 2 auditions in 2025 for on-camera. 2.
Wow.
They were at the same time, like a day apart, and they were both for like Disney Channel shows. Not complaining, happy to do the job,
Of
but
course.
but
Yeah.
that's, you know, I don't know what's going on with production or what the hiring processes are right now, but there's nothing, you know, and I called my agent and they're like, you know, there's just nothing out there right now. We're trying. We're flailing, you know, we're trying,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
Everybody I know in the industry, all my actor friends, directors, editors, they're
yeah,
just scrambling to get anything.
everybody is, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've created a YouTube channel for this kind of stuff, and then
Mhm,
I'm doing, I don't want to call it a follow up to Hired Gun, but it is a music show called First Call,
mhm.
right? About these great first call
Yeah,
musicians. But I'm going to make it a YouTube series.
keep it
Nobody's buying music. It's too fucking expensive to produce. You
right.
know, you're talking about,
Yeah.
and I produced it with a dear friend of mine that passed last year, Ben Feigen, who's the executive producer of Schitt's Creek. He was a
Mhm.
huge fan of Hired Gun, and he reached out to me and was like, "We should do something together." So this is what we created, and it's fucking great, man.
Awesome.
You know, the musicians we picked have great stories, great on camera,
Yeah.
da 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 da. And don't be surprised if I call you for season 2, man.
I'm here, man.
Seriously.
You know me, man. I mean, I met you as a
Yeah.
fluke, and
Yeah.
it's only made my life better. You know,
Same.
I love hanging out with you. You
Yeah.
know,
Same.
the times we have always been fun and memorable and just good times. You're good people.
Likewise, man, for
Um,
sure.
but you know, as far as anything else, like one day at a time, we'll see what happens. I'm planning shoots. I'll send you so you can post right here.
Yep.
Some sports pictures I've been doing, like for kids
Oh,
team
cool.
sports. I shot some pictures of my girls' soccer team,
Okay.
some individual shots, and I was not expecting the response that I got. because I shot their team and I shot the 3 other teams that were in their division. It was on picture day, so I knew everybody was going to be, their hair was going to be brushed and whatever. But I set my stuff up away from everybody else,
Right.
and I shot these pictures that, well, I'll you can post it, but I'll show you so you can see right now, see what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So I did like that. And so I did that for all 4 teams, and the response was like, "Oh my God, you got to do my team. You got to do this." And next thing you know, like my girls are competitive gymnasts, and the gym wants me to shoot stuff. I shot that.
Dude.
Right.
I think I saw that on your Instagram page.
Yeah.
That's great.
And that was literally shot right here where I'm standing.
No shit.
Where I'm sitting. So I was going to do that for the whole gymnast, and then the fires happened.
Yep.
God.
And
like out that window right there, you could see the ridgeline was on fire. So we were evacuated for 2 weeks, and everybody's life was thrown upside down and all that shit. And so everything got put on the back burner. So I'm going to shoot them the gym for their next season, because the season just ended. And they've got summer camps, and then they start their next season. So we're going to set up the actual shoot for them. And I'm going to try and shoot the AYSO girls soccer, the boys soccer, all that stuff.
Dude, that's awesome.
And it's fun. I put the camera on a tripod.
Yep.
I have, it's over there. I have a little monitor because I can't see anything anymore.
Yeah, same.
And so I put the monitor on the tripod, and then I get a crowd of these kids behind me, and they're looking at, it's full day out. They don't see it, but the way I have the camera settings comes out looking pretty close to what I showed you.
Right.
With the dark background and the smoke and this, and every shot, it's like, whoa, oh my
That's
God.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it's fun. It's a good time. And like I said, all the parents that have seen him have been like super supportive. They want it for their kids. And I've been approached by some other, I posted them on my Instagram, and I've been approached by other friends that want me to shoot their kids in different schools around. So it's just a matter of focusing, putting that all together. And
that's a lot of work. Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it's fun. It's rewarding. It's still art.
Yeah. Yep. I'm in my makeshift man pit room, and I'm looking at stuff throughout my whole career going back almost 30 years. And it's like, I can't believe I'm still doing this.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on, dude, and spending some time with me.
Thanks for having me.
I can't wait to come try some of your pizza.
Bring it on, brother.
All right, bud.
See you, man. I'll talk to you.